Welcome back to Rare Coin Legacy, the channel where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary hidden wealth, and where history, mystery, and money collide in ways most people never imagine. And today you are about to hear a story so shocking that it has caused collectors, dealers, and everyday coin hunters to recheck every single penny they own, because this is not just another Lincoln cent story. This is the unbelievable tale of how a 2011 1-cent coin, something millions of people still overlook and casually spend without a second thought, has been linked to jaw-dropping valuations reaching as high as $9 million due to a perfect storm of minting errors, production anomalies, rare conditions, and collector demand that almost nobody expected from a modern coin, a year most people assume has no value at all. Yet hidden within that assumption lies one of the most controversial and fascinating modern penny mysteries ever discussed in numismatic circles. Because while billions of 2011 pennies were struck, only a microscopic number escaped the mint, carrying combinations of mistakes so dramatic and so visually striking that they transformed a simple copper-plated zinc cent into a once-in-a-generation collectible that serious buyers are willing to fight over at auctions, private sales, and closed-door negotiations. And to truly understand how a 2011 1-cent could even be mentioned in the same sentence as millions of dollars, you must first understand how modern mints operate at high speed, striking hundreds of coins per second under enormous pressure, because when that system works perfectly it produces uniform coins. But when even a tiny component slips, cracks, or misaligns at exactly the wrong moment, the result can be a numismatic anomaly that should never exist. And in 2011 the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents at multiple facilities under intense production demand, which increased the risk of overlooked die fatigue, improperly prepared planchets, misfed blanks, and transitional metal irregularities that collectors still debate today. And one of the most talked about possibilities behind the $9 million valuation involves extreme double die characteristics, not the common minor doubling that shows up on many modern coins, but violent hub doubling that caused dramatic separation in the lettering, date, and Lincoln's portrait, doubling so bold it appears almost like two coins struck on top of each other, creating a visual effect that instantly signals rarity to experienced eyes. Because such strong doubled dies are supposed to be caught and destroyed during quality control, yet a handful are believed to have slipped into circulation unnoticed, where they sat quietly in jars, drawers, and cash registers for years before anyone realized what they were holding, and that alone would make a coin valuable. But the story does not stop there, because some of these 2011 cents are rumored to show multiple errors layered onto a single strike, which is where the value escalates from thousands into unimaginable territory, including off-metal errors where a penny was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or experimental composition, resulting in a weight, color, and magnetic response that immediately defies expectations. And when a coin combines off-metal striking with visible double dies, collectors enter bidding wars, because the odds of such a combination occurring naturally are astronomically low. And then there are the striking errors themselves, such as off-center strikes where the design is dramatically misaligned yet still shows a complete date and mint mark, something collectors crave because it proves authenticity while showcasing the error clearly. And some 2011 cents are believed to show broad strikes with missing collars, allowing the metal to spread outward during the strike, producing an unusually wide coin with distorted lettering that looks almost melted. And while broad strikes alone are collectible, when paired with die cracks, cuds, or retained struck through debris, they become exponentially rarer. And speaking of die cracks, the 2011 penny is notorious among specialists for late-stage die deterioration, where overused dies develop spiderweb cracking across Lincoln's face, the fields, and the lettering. And in extreme cases entire chunks of the die broke away, creating massive raised blobs known as cuds that replace letters or parts of the rim. And when a cud obscures critical design elements in a visually dramatic way, Collectors recognize it as a terminal die state, meaning the die was at the end of its life and only produced a very limited number of coins before being retired, and limited numbers are the lifeblood of high value, especially when paired with modern dates that people never bother to save, making survival rates incredibly low. And then comes one of the most controversial aspects of the $9 million discussion, the possibility of transitional composition errors. Because although 2011 cents were officially copper-plated zinc, rumors persist of experimental or leftover planchets entering the production line, including planchets with incorrect alloy ratios or unusual core metals that respond differently to XRF testing. And when scientific analysis reveals a composition that does not match official mint specifications, collectors and grading services take notice, because that suggests a coin that technically should not exist, and coins that should not exist have a long history of commanding extreme prices, especially when verified and encapsulated by top-tier grading companies. And condition plays a massive role here as well, because a coin with multiple errors but heavy circulation damage will never reach the same level as one preserved in near-perfect mint state. And some 2011 error cents are believed to have been pulled from original rolls or bags, retaining sharp details, blazing luster, and untouched surfaces that amplify every visible mistake, turning them into showpieces rather than curiosities. And when such a coin appears at auction with full documentation, lab analysis, and expert attribution, the bidding is no longer about face value or even typical collector budgets. It becomes about prestige, rarity, and the chance to own a modern legend. And that is how speculative valuations climb into the millions, because at that level buyers are not just purchasing a coin, they are acquiring a story, a talking point, and a unique artifact that separates their collection from every other. And the psychology of collecting cannot be ignored, because when one high-profile sale sets a benchmark, even rumors of such a price can ignite demand, causing other owners of similar 2011 cents to come forward, hoping their coin might share the same traits, which in turn fuels media coverage, online discussions, and viral interest that brings even more eyes into the market. And suddenly a year that once seemed ordinary becomes the focus of intense scrutiny, with people checking dates, weighing coins, examining edges, and holding pennies under magnification for the first time in their lives. And this is exactly how hidden treasures are discovered, not because the coins were rare at birth, but because the right combination of errors, survival, and timing elevated them into something extraordinary. And as we continue deeper into this story, you will begin to understand how specific error pairings, mint-specific traits, and authentication processes all play critical roles in determining whether a 2011 1 cent is merely interesting or potentially life-changing. Because not every error is created equal, and not every claim holds up under expert examination. Yet, when everything aligns perfectly, the result is a modern penny that defies logic, defies expectations, and forces the world to reconsider what true value really looks like in the smallest denomination of American coinage. And this is only the beginning of the full story that continues to unfold as collectors, researchers, and everyday people keep discovering that the change in their pockets may be hiding secrets far more valuable than anyone ever imagined. Rare Coin Legacy, the place where everyday pocket change reveals secrets worth fortunes, and where ordinary coins turn into extraordinary stories of hidden wealth. And today, you are about to discover why a simple 2015 D1 cent coin, something most people spend without even looking at twice, has become one of the most shocking modern penny mysteries in numismatic history. With rare examples linked to staggering valuations reaching as high as $7 million due to an incredible combination of minting errors, production mistakes, overlooked anomalies, and extreme collector demand that nobody expected from such a recent year. Because the truth is that 2015 pennies were produced in massive quantities at the Denver Mint, leading people to assume they could never be rare or valuable. Yet history has proven again and again that rarity is not always about low mintage numbers. It is about survival, uniqueness, and mistakes that should never have happened, and the 2015 descent represents a perfect storm where high-speed modern minting collided with human oversight, mechanical stress, and metal inconsistencies, allowing a handful of coins to escape into circulation carrying characteristics so abnormal that experts still debate how they passed inspection, and to understand how a $7 million valuation is even possible, you must first understand the conditions under which modern Lincoln cents are struck, because the U.S. Mint operates with immense pressure to meet circulation demand, striking thousands of coins per minute using dies that are expected to withstand extreme stress, and when those dies begin to wear, crack, or shift alignment even slightly, the results can be dramatic, and in 2015 several documented cases of extreme double dies emerged, not the subtle machine doubling that most people confuse with true errors, but genuine hub doubling where the die received multiple misaligned impressions from the hub, creating bold, separated images. On Lincoln's portrait, the date and the lettering doubling so strong that it appears unmistakable even to the untrained eye, and coins with this level of doubling are supposed to be caught and destroyed before leaving the mint, yet a microscopic number appear to have slipped through, possibly due to production surges or overlooked quality control during peak output periods. And these doubled dies alone can command 5-figure or 6-figure prices when authenticated, but the story does not end there, because some of the most valuable 2015 descents are believed to combine doubled dies with other catastrophic errors, creating layered anomalies that push them into an entirely different league of rarity, including off-center strikes where a significant portion of the design is missing yet the date and mint mark remain fully visible, which collectors prize because it confirms authenticity while showcasing the mistake clearly. And when such an off-center strike is dramatic, showing 30%, 40%, or even more blank area, the visual impact alone drives intense bidding interest, and even more fascinating are broad strikes caused by missing or malfunctioning collars, allowing the metal to spread outward during the strike, creating oversized coins with distorted lettering and warped rims. And while broad strikes are collectible by themselves, when paired with double dies or die cracks they become exceptionally rare, and die cracks are another major factor in the 2015 penny mystery, because high production volume accelerated die fatigue, leading to cracks that spread across the die face like lightning, sometimes connecting letters, slicing through Lincoln's portrait, or branching across the fields in chaotic patterns, and in late-stage die states, entire chunks of the die broke away, forming massive raised areas known as cuds that replace parts of the design entirely. And a 2015 descent showing a large cut obscuring letters or rim sections represents a terminal die event, meaning only a tiny number of coins were struck before the die failed completely, and when such a coin also retains strong mint luster and minimal contact marks, its desirability skyrockets, because condition amplifies rarity. And then there is the controversial topic of struck-through errors, where foreign materials such as grease, metal shavings, or debris became trapped between the die and the planchet during the strike, leaving voids, impressions, or ghost-like missing details that permanently altered the coin. And some 2015 descents are believed to show dramatic struck-through fabric or wire impressions, creating textures and shapes that look almost surreal, instantly setting them apart from ordinary cents. And collectors value these errors because they are unique by nature. No two struck-through errors are exactly alike, making each example a one-of-a-kind artifact. And when uniqueness enters the equation, price ceilings disappear, because collectors are no longer comparing identical examples. They are competing for ownership of something that cannot be replicated. And perhaps the most explosive factor behind the $7 million speculation involves off-metal and wrong planchet errors, because although 2015 cents were officially struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, rare examples may have been struck on planchets intended for other denominations or experimental compositions. resulting in abnormal weights, colors, and metallic responses, and when a penny weighs too much, too little, or reacts differently under magnetism testing, it raises immediate red flags for experts, triggering advanced analysis using XRF technology to determine metal composition. And when that analysis reveals a composition that does not match any officially authorized set alloy, the coin enters legendary territory, because it represents a manufacturing event that should not exist within documented mint procedures, and coins that should not exist have historically commanded extreme premiums, especially when authenticated by top grading services and accompanied by detailed lab reports. And once such a coin is encapsulated and certified, it becomes a trophy piece that elite collectors chase, not for face value or nostalgia, but for the prestige of owning a modern era that rewrites assumptions about contemporary coinage. And psychology plays a massive role in these valuations, because when collectors realize that most people never saved 2015 pennies thinking they were worthless, survival rates for extreme errors become incredibly low, meaning that even if a die produced several thousand error coins, only a handful may still exist today, hidden in jars, drawers, or long-forgotten rolls. And when one spectacular example surfaces at auction or private sale, it sets a benchmark that reshapes expectations, fueling rumors, speculation, and renewed searching across the country. And suddenly millions of people begin checking their change, weighing pennies, inspecting edges, and holding coins under magnification, all because one overlooked said shattered the myth that modern coins cannot be valuable. And as the spotlight intensifies, every newly discovered 2015 error is scrutinized, compared, and debated, with some dismissed as minor while others ignite bidding wars among collectors who understand that modern rarities are far harder to obtain than classic ones, because the window for discovery is narrow and closing fast. And this is how a $7 million conversation emerges, not from fantasy, but from the collision of extreme rarity, undeniable visual impact, scientific verification, elite collector demand, and the powerful human desire to own something extraordinary that most of the world overlooked. And as this story continues to unfold, the 2015 D1 cent stands as a reminder that value is not always obvious, that mistakes can become miracles, and that the smallest coin in your pocket may carry a secret capable of changing everything. And this is only the beginning of the deeper exploration into the specific combinations, authentication paths, market forces, and discovery stories that continue to push the legend of the 2015 D penny into numismatic history.